Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we're looking at Emerald Pointe by CoasterBill, and this is sort of a legendary park in the fact that it is gigantic and still pretty detailed. And it took Bill a long time to finish this park and had to get pretty clever and creative with the object making, which we'll see a little bit later. Um, but I feel like we've kind of all gotten spoiled now with the new save format that allows us to put down not only more objects from a selection standpoint, but just more objects into the park. Uh, Prior to that, a sufficiently detailed park really couldn't get to a large size. But as we can see here, this is a pretty damn big park. I believe we're at 230 something squares. And granted, a lot of it is water and built out differently, but there is still a lot here to see. And just a lot of interesting details, and it's very impressive in general. So let's take a spin around the park and see what there is to see. We're actually going to start outside the park here with kind of our entry here as we come in. We've got a number of pretty nice setups for roads and things, and I know Bill kind of wanted to fully build out that back square of the map, but we have this pretty nice detail of the parking tolls entrance here where the station is placed here at the tolls. So it looks like they pause for toll payment and then come in past all of these great custom signs, which that's a thing we'll see quite a bit more as we come by. And things like this, these great diagonal signs that are just staring right at your face. Not necessarily sure if it fits the whole overall aesthetic, but actually I kind of like it. And then we'll pick that back up over here where we have our parking lot, and we have some of the signage about the summer concert series and Fear Fest. Kind of nice Fear Fest billboard, I guess, on the side of the building here. And then over here, more parking and everything else leading to the entrance. So the entrance has a coaster coming through it. Kind of reminds me of Fury 325 in that way, where we have that sort of entrance feature bridge over top. We'll get to that one at some point. So you get a couple peeps here just as scenery objects, but what we can't see, because there aren't a lot of peeps here right now, is there's a maze function built into each one of these queues, so it actually looks like the guests will queue up, then walk through and walk out the other side to actually get into the park. It's a really clever thing, something I've already emulated once, and would certainly be doing again in future parks. But once we're through, we get to our front entrance area here with a nice fountain and a nice architecture all around. It's never super detailed, but the patterning certainly makes it look more detailed. You're going to see a lot of this striping. We're going to see a lot of this checkered, which I know that was sort of I wouldn't say controversial, but it definitely received a lot of comments at the time as far as just the overall look goes. But let's spin around and we'll go kind of this direction to start. So first coaster we're going to get to is this guy here. So this is Conquistador. This is a B&M wing coaster. Now it kind of has that Furious Baco vibe, not only in the Mediterranean feel, but also the launched look and the kind of overall design. We've seen this coaster here kind of make its way through, going a little bit slow. This was, I believe, prior to the time when you could easily adjust the massing of the train to really pick up that speed a little better. But got a short little launch track here, couple of nice inversions. I do like this roll through the tower of the station. That's pretty nice detail, and just the overall layout is pretty good in general. This little cafe here, again, custom sign. We come through here and love this little sculpture. A little rough, but you can kind of tell what it is, what it's going for. And as we come along here, we'll get to the first of the haunted houses, which this is a pretty cool feature. You saw the Fear Fest sign out front earlier. Throughout the park, we're going to see a number of different haunted houses that are sort of permanent built things. So it looks like facades, and then the location, maybe this is costuming here, like it says, is turned into a haunted house for the season. So we have this back of house queue and entry kind of out behind the park, which is something you would typically see on a Halloween event. So pretty clever, I think, in general, just to see that overlay. We've seen it before in one of Japanese parks, and I know we've seen it in others too. But it's just nice to see that sort of level of detail. We get over here to our kids area. We've got our one coaster here. So this is Riyadh Run, um, which would lead me to believe Saudi Arabian themed. So we get that sort of Arabian look overall. Got a little fun spinning ride here. I love this camel ride around the circle. 1001 Nights type ride. Just a number of these little 2x2 type circular rides. Come over here, another kind of continuation of this same sort of facade. A lot of this yellow, red, brown. You're going to see a lot of that kind of warm color palette throughout. That sort of it's kind of seemed like Bill's signature type stuff. But this is great with the jet skis and the boats out here. Big show stadium. We have the viewing area here, and then the coaster in the backdrop or the background makes a pretty nice backdrop. All right, so here's a funicular, which is fun because of the sign here that notes it being here for 50 years. So that's kind of fun. Reminds me of the Magic Mountain one. Not that it's covering a whole lot of distance, but nonetheless, it still gets the job done. Next area here, as we move into, is more of this kind of western type area. We've got a double sky ride, which comes along and goes all the way across the map, which we'll see a little bit later. This little SNS tower here, which is kind of fun in the fact that it reminds me of the one at Silver Dollar City, with the fire station and things like that. So be fun there. Another little theater here with some characters, and also it is worth opening up the character or the staff list and just reading all the character names. There's a ton of different kind of funny comments and details in there. Nice little restaurant here. Here's a big Larson Super Loop. And then this brings us over to the big coaster we saw on the way in. This is Outlaw. So this is a B&M Hyper, although I would guess it might be intended as a Giga coaster. Let's see, we can send this out. There we go. Speeded up the lift, but great supports as I would expect. Nice detailing, things like that. Alrighty. Once you get this high, it can be difficult to make things look good in this game. So B&M Hypers are probably some of the easiest because it's just a bunch of hills, and you got to get them to just about the right gliding speed over top of those hills. So makes it on the easier end. So the length of this would lead me to believe that it's intended more as a Giga coaster than a hyper coaster. We've got a nice mid-course brake run here. You'll note he didn't use the actual block brake piece and instead just adjusted the excuse me, the dispatch times to delay this, which we've screwed up now. That way we don't get the slowdown at the end, which I'm not entirely sure if the ride had stopped on that mid-course it could make it back, because it is long. There's a lot of hills to it. It's just a pretty gigantic ride in general. 7,400 feet, which is huge. Love this top spin right here. Really great theming around it. Would have been nice to see more of the custom rides in the park. Not just like the Super Loop here, but more flat rides to make just a little bit larger space. But again, this was really a lot of this map was really before that was a thing, so not at all surprising. So over here we get to the Coaster Stampede. So this was how you did RMCs prior to the RMC track being released. Typically it was like a wooden versus steel coaster, and you use the RMC custom train that was out. So we have a nice vertical drop here into a dive loop. Outward banked corner. And another Immelman on this side. So real narrow layout, but squeezed in here pretty nicely. Shaping of these hills is a little bit tighter than, say, the B&Ms, but that's kind of part of the whole thing. And then this low, fast roll here at the end. I do like the start here with the dive underneath the queue, this kind of meandering bit of layout, and then this slow roll by this other section of queue, actually right up against the ride itself. So that's a pretty nice detail, I think. Now we do have a log flume here, and actually the log flume is pretty substantial. This goes all the way around, so it kind of surrounds this whole coaster and area really. We can kind of come across this side and see a few things, a couple flat rides here and there, and a little maze, a little kind of carousel of sorts. Here's a little information board, which I think is cool. That this is a changing screen here that shows all the queue times for everything, which is fun. Entrance here underneath the flume with the sort of aqueduct, which is kind of a neat idea. But let's pick up this coaster here. So this one is this is Quicksilver. Quicksilver is an Intamin coaster, sort of like Maverick. So nice little drop out of the station here. We've got a diagonal launch straight away. This little interweaving kind of thing is something Bill was pretty good at. You see that same thing happening here on the mine train, and you'll see that same thing happening again on the suspended coaster as we get further down. But quite a lot going on here as far as interaction. We got the lift and the launch. We got our lift here coming down with the big steep drop underneath the pathway. Nice big hill on this side, kind of wrapping around some of these other rides. Some great airtime, a little bit of interaction right here as these two pass underneath each other. So not quite the same level of Maverick interaction, but still pretty darn good. And then a roll into the brakes. So very detailed, very nice station. Again, you're going to see that different sort of layering as we've seen with the different colors here. Not so much the checkerboard, although if you get to this, like the arcade here, you'll see a little bit of that, and then kind of any of these other buildings that we look at throughout, you're going to see that. Here we have another one of the haunted houses. So this is Slaughterhouse that's kind of buried within the space within the coaster here. Nice little entrance itself, gate closed, and all of that. And then actually out back, we've got a secondary entrance, which we're going to look at all the stuff here on the beach afterwards too. But this is a whole further section, and actually we see a nice sign here. It says Emerald Pointe Theme Park and Resort as we come in. So picking up that log flume, we've got actually some really nice theming on it in general. So I do like this. First of all, just the realistic details here. Got this nice davit arm and the maintenance area right next to the station. We got the entrance here for the exit here with the gift shop. But here we head off up into the first bit of theming here inside some show buildings. Nice drop underneath the corkscrew, and then we're just weaving around all these different rides up and over and under the mine train here. This is fun. We've got our boathouse restaurant and bar, and the flume goes right on through it, which I think is a fun detail. In our second lift on this side, then we get to our little aqueduct here that we already looked at. That kind of continues along until we drop down and go back into the trees a little bit. Third lift hill up here through another little show building, and then drop back down and over into the big splashdown here with the station. I really like this queue, this big covered themed queue. It does really well for this sort of western, I guess almost bayou type theme, with all the posts and everything in the water and just the various little facades and everything. It's a lot of spend for a queue. But I do like the thought about interaction and relationships. So our queue entrance here being right underneath the tower for the drop of the ride, even though it is kind of far away from the station itself, it makes sense and it fits really well. So I mean, Bill's a big theme park guy, and he definitely has thought through those sorts of things. let's pull back out to the front side here and look at our little kids coaster right here. So this is a Libertine, nice little coaster here with not a whole lot of detail, but a nice, pretty decent sized layout for a kids coaster, and fits well within the space. Here you can see that whole cable car running the whole way across. Pick up a number of the columns, so nice detail, no columns in the water. It's all on the various peninsulas and islands that are created. So Emerald Express here is our mine train. This is a really nice layered mine train using the custom trains, which are basically just the Morgan Arrow Hypercoaster trains without the front car. This is nice in the layering. So we've got the wooden coaster with the corkscrew coaster on top. So it kind of gives that nice feel of the mine train steel coaster with the wood supports. Are we waiting for anything? Send this one out. This one's pretty smooth in general, so it kind of has the feel of a later Arrow Mine Train coaster in the fact that it's a little less jerky. There's definitely a lot more smooth transitions and longer drops than you would see in some of the earlier Arrow coasters, but it does still have those sort of awkward transitions, which is part of what adds to the charm of these kind of rides, I think. So here we go off of that drop. Got a very nice little swooping transition corner here, kind of mirroring what we did here on the Intamin. Maybe used a little bit much, as we'll see as some of the other ones, but it is a good looking way to wrap around a coaster like that. And final low space underneath the pathway, underneath the log flume, and then coming back up into those brakes. So pretty good detail. Kind of mixed details in some instances where we don't necessarily have transfer tracks on some, but we do have on others. But I think some of that was object related, some of that was space related, so not totally surprising. So on to our next area here, we got a Schwarzkopf Shuttle Loop. This is called Boom Slang, which a little bit sad that the whole thing is hidden behind the building. It would be nice to highlight the loop there, but buildings do look nice. Here's our checkered, here's our 3-color Spanish tile again, and another little ride underneath here, some teacups. So as we move along, we come out of this this area here and really transition into our jungle-y type area. And we pick up our Arrow Hypercoaster here, or I keep saying Arrow Hypercoaster. This is an Arrow Suspended Coaster. This is Python. And actually, this is quite a nice layout, too. Again, you can see this transitioning of figure 8 corners with the diving turns and the flat turns. But again, this is the best way to do a hypercoaster layout, is really given drops and corners all with the cornering. Very little as far as actual drops, very little straight sections, things like that. So you kind of have your initial drop to get your speed, and then you really just do the rest with corners. And that's what we've done here. So no steep drops, which I think after your first drop, you just really don't want to see those again for a realistic coaster. And then you just want to see all these great kind of corners throughout the whole thing. And actually, this layout in general sits really well and fits very nicely. I do like this transfer track structure over top of the Rapids ride. It just seems kind of so hefty and maybe a little overbuilt, but it works for the space that we've got. Big station here, again using our checkered colors and alternating colors, which definitely a Bill thing. I'm not quite sure it's my favorite, but it works. And then we can see the whole structure here with the with those lift supports and everything, which are quite nice. Throughout this whole space underneath, we've got our Rapids ride wrapped around, which is fun in the fact that it's a 2-ride Rapids ride. So there's 2 rides hidden in here, so we can get this double loading station. We have this flush loading, so very nice detail there. Kind of sounds like the Hafima raft rides that you walk out onto the platform and you actually get up into the boat. But it's a good look. On the kind of outer edge of this area, we've got Cayman, which is a B&M Hypercoaster. Oh my God, a B&M dive coaster, and has again this nice diagonal figure eight option. Don't want to pass up this building here, which is pretty nice. It's got our two-color changing kind of thing again, but looks very good. We have the peeps here stacked up at the restaurant as well. It's a good detail. Once the actual live or the real peeps kind of interact with it, it makes the whole thing look a lot busier. It makes it look a lot more kind of bustling throughout the whole thing. Great drop here underneath the tunnel, and then kind of standard layout throughout. A little choppy in a couple spots, but not too bad. And then our Cayman entrance, which is kind of fun. Reminds me of Gatorland down here in Florida, where you walk through the gator's mouth into the entrance. So very, very nicely put together. All right, and we've kind of made it around the lake, and now we'll kind of work our way back. So the Ferris, or the cable cars, this guy right here comes and lands on this side, right at the edge of the map, so really squeezing it in. And inside we've got a dark ride for this spot, so we can actually see some custom sections here with some pretty interesting scenery. Using the spinning cars, so this is called Temple of Shamaran. You can kind of see the whole thing set up, and you can also see the some of the details here from a ride standpoint that we have coming in and out. And I do love these cutaways and just detailed facades or detailed show sets in general. Here's this guy coming out. Oh, he's on that side, coming out of this little hole. So pretty big facade on this whole thing. Shares the building with the sky ride. Nice fountain there. Get into the observation tower using the roto drop tower for it. So it's a little beefier, a little thicker, which I think works for the overall look. And then we get into our pretty gigantic water coaster, which so far kind of think everything in this park feels sort of gigantic. So this is the Deluge of Gilgamesh. We've got our station down here, lift up, and another one of these aqueduct type situations where the pathway goes underneath of it. It's a pretty nice organization, and I think it's worth repeating in a couple spots here, which he's done. And a slow meandering thing all around a bunch of show scenes. We got our first drop right here, and then we pick up that perpendicular to the station and everything, go through another tower, and have a nice drop down into this big splash area, which has viewing pretty much all the way around the whole thing. And then we'll come back in, and there's actually a little bit more to it. So there's a little splashdown up top, which we can see here. A couple little turns, and there's a final diving corner that drops down into this splashdown, sort of hidden at the end, which is maybe a nice little surprise for some of the riders. Checker colors, all sorts of just little details and things like that. Get that warm color palette going. So we can jump over here, but we're going to continue around the outer edge. So this is the Great Fall. Here we go. Pick that up. The Great Fall of Babel. Taking our hint from King Daka and Zumanjaro, Drop of Doom. We've got not only the Intamin Stratocoaster here, but also the drop tower, as you would expect. So this was the old way to do these, where you'd set it at freefall drop mode. And unfortunately, it would load up here, but it still kind of did its thing. And then it would do the nice big drop. And set it up with that nice kind of slow re-entry. But very cool. And here you can see the coaster going up and over using the JA227 Giga Looping trains, which was about the only custom train we had for this sort of thing for a very long time, which kind of is very nostalgic in a way, and somewhat happy then that we don't have to keep using these trains, because while they are fine, they just don't really look the part of sort of our modern day builds, which I say modern day, but this park isn't that old. It's I should look up the year ahead of time, but it's not too old. A little bit of theming in here, a little bit of differentiation from the other sections. We got that sort of Greek look to some of this bit, and some of this over here too. We've got the dome and everything else. Still very much into that warm color palette with the gold, the tans, and the browns. We do have a parachute ride here on the launch strip, and actually, this launch being as long as it is, there's just a lot of different stuff that we can work through over here. So there's a lot of little buildings. There's this car ride over here. There's just a lot to see, which brings us back around to our entrance. So we'll look at this one. If we had gone to the right here in the entrance area, kind of still in the entrance area, really, we have Sandstorm, which is a spinning coaster. Nice layout, again, diagonal little figure 8 pattern. This one's done in continuous circuit mode to not have to worry about those block breaks, and it's just spaced well enough that everything looks like it's going to operate properly, and I'm cool with that. I think that makes sense. It's a good look. You have a little carousel here that's buried in this building, hard to see, and then the Sultan's Flight, little magic carpet type ride here, very Disney-esque. And I guess this picks us up to our last coaster here. So this is Anzu. This is a B&M inverted coaster. Didn't say hypercoaster. It's kind of got a Raptor vibe to it. Got the Montu colors. So some different things influencing this one, perhaps. Here we'll come off of that drop and go down into this nice long trench. Half buried loop, keeps that speed up. Into a 0G roll, pretty good there too. Another nice trench here with an Immelman. Rolls just the wrong way, I think, but drop into this trench here, up into our mid-course brakes. Again, using our trick of not having the actual block brake there, so we can have another one here waiting just with the timed dispatch. Sort of kind of 0G roll here, and then a corkscrew here at the end, or flat spin, I guess, up and into the brakes. This one's tough because it's a very long section here to kind of fill up and finish at the end, and it's hard to make a straight inverted coaster look good as far as that goes, so it's just a long section to really fill in, which is tough. But that kind of concludes our whistle stop tour of Emerald Pointe. But we still have more outside, which we said we were going to look at earlier. So let's kind of walk our way out the second entrance here and see what there is to see. So here we've got a tickets and reservations building and just a vacation center. I do like this logo. I think it's pretty darn cool. And just, you have to appreciate Bill's object making ability through the whole thing. Nice little sign here as well. There you have our beach and our all the guests being able to walk in and out. A lot of swimmers, a lot of beach swimmers throughout, and then there's a hotel right here, and trams and organization and everything like that. We've got a Moe's, and here's where we get into a lot of the branded kind of things. This is sort of like a city walk. So here's a Margaritaville. Here's a Bubblegum Shrimp Company, Senor Frogs, TGI Fridays. Tommy Bahamas, all those sorts of nice things. And actually, I really do like this setup here with the covered escalator on either side. The Cold Stone Creamery down here. This has that very Louisiana feel of the bubblegum architecture, as you would typically see. The checkerboard roof, as you would expect from Bill. And certainly good bars throughout, because that's something Bill is going to look for. Here's a slingshot with a pretty nice detail on this one. Nice structure on either side. Just using that kind of launch tower type hack with the custom slingshot ride. Then over here, there's one more hotel on this side. Nice pool over here. More trams and everything else. So it carries throughout the entire space through this whole thing. This Margaritaville is really nice with the boat drinks bar here sticking out the side. Just lots of good details. So at a park of this size and at the object limit for as long as it was, Bill was fighting the object limit for years. The way he got around it was by making gigantic scenery. So if we come through here and start to delete some scenery, we're going to see that we're deleting whole sections of the building. So this is his secret, is to be able to say whole sections of things that were made in pieces and turned into separate buildings. So we can kind of see a lot of those different signs and different whole buildings. Like here we have this entire building. So there's our section for our maintenance area and everything, and we can see just whole sections of the Margaritaville wall, which is this guy on the back here. You can see this is an entire gigantic scenery piece. And it's a clever idea. The only challenge is, well, not challenge, but now it means that all of our scenery folders are now populated with these kind of one-off, impossible to reuse objects. But I will say it is worth going through and just reading the descriptions of some of these because there are some pretty funny descriptions throughout. So it always reminds me of this park when I'm going through my object searching for something and I just get some ridiculous half of a building object and weird comments and everything like that. But again, worth reading the staff lists. There's just a lot of kind of funny commentary in there, and just in general, it's a pretty good sense of humor in the park. Not the most detailed spotlight, not the most kind of refined as far as architecture goes, but I can appreciate it in the fact that I love a good giant coaster park, and I like the just overall vibe of the whole thing. It's one of those that I would love to be able to build something this big, but I know it would take me like 20 years. So it taps into my nostalgic feelings for RCT and things like that. So I hope you'll download the park as well and explore it, because there's a lot of details and just a lot of fun stuff that I didn't take a look at this time. So it's worth seeing because there's just so much extra to view here, and maybe you'll spot some things that I haven't even seen. So download the park. It's in the description below, and leave a comment too and let me know what you think. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye now.